Welcome to the Windows 10 onboarding option sessions here at VMworld. My name is Grischa Ernst. I'm working as Customer Success Architect at VMware. And today we take a look into the traditional Windows 10 onboarding and then in the modern Windows 10 onboarding options we're getting with Workspace ONE. So starting with the traditional Windows onboarding, I think everybody is aware of the old classic PCLM stuff, where we have a wipe and load deployment. So when you order a device, you wipe it and reinstall it with your golden image, and including all the software and drivers and updates and so on. And you have really long SCCM task sequences or any other installation sequences from other PCLM software. And of course, you have really restrictive devices. So the users are not even able to change the background image, as example. Traditionally, files are stored locally on a file server or on an on-prem SharePoint. So nothing in the cloud, nothing accessible via the internet without VPN connection. Local files on the devices itself getting backed up via folder redirection or roaming profiles or things like DEM from VMware. So we have specific tools and mechanism to back up things to make sure that everything is stored on file servers, centralized. Then we got always on VPN, means that the device is always connected to the internal network. So the device is always managed. Every traffic that goes or has to be routed through the internal network to the internal proxy servers to go out back again to the internet, which is kind of complicated. And then we have Active Directory only, so it means we have no workgroup or other other directory types or Azure Active Directory, so everything is on-premise. And of course, everybody knows those classic error messages, especially this one from SCCM, where the task sequence runs into a failure, and you need to restart the whole process to redeploy your image, and this costs a lot of time. Also, the end user experience is quite bad because the teams are not talking to the IT departments, so they're not working together. So as example, we had a customer where HR bought a tool without including IT in the process, and IT can't implement the tool because there are some requirements that are not met. So they bought it, but they can't use it. IT typically was quite restrictive, so because they come back from the old times where users were not experienced with technical stuff, so the users are, or the IT is happy when the user is able to use a mouse like this. But since some years, the whole communication and the whole process from the Windows management changed. And also with that, we're providing more and more options to the end user to make the onboarding experience more seamless. But before we go into more details with the new onboarding options of Windows 10, we need to first make sure that everybody understands what our new buzzwords mean. So first, offline domain join is not a real new example or new functionality. It was introduced with Windows 7 back in the old days, but was never really used by any customer. And offline domain join is the functionality where the device is not connected to the internal network, but gets joined to the domain via a called blob file. So in the workspace one area, we're talking about offline domain join or domain join in general. And we're using the AirWatch Cloud Connector to communicate between the device and the domain controller. So the ACC has a service account which requesting the blob file at the domain controller and then send the blob file via the device server back to the device. So the device itself is then prepared to join the domain, and the end user will already see the option to log in to the domain. But for this first login, we need a VPN connection. So we need to make sure that our VPN solution is able to start and establish the connection before the first user logs in. So this is offline domain join, which is basically the main functionality we are using for the new onboarding experience. Then we got hybrid join, which is kind of confusing for a lot of people. So hybrid join in general means it's on-premise domain join, but with an optional Azure Active Directory join. So hybrid join means first, the device is always on-premise joined, but has a registration in Azure Active Directory. Autopilot Hybrid Join is one of the new features we are providing since Workspace 1 2102. Azure Active Directory Join plus the optional Azure Active Directory Join. But we achieving this by using the Autopilot technology, which means the user starts the device, types in his email address, and then the whole process gets triggered. So normally the Autopilot functionality was only for Azure Active Directory joined devices. And then we got two name changes from VMware. So the classic factory provisioning is now called Dropship provisioning offline. And the newer connected provisioning is now named Dropship provisioning online. The difference between the two is the offline mode uses a PPKG to install the application, and the online mode really enrolls the device in the factory, and then the software gets pushed down via internet to the device, which is still in the factory. So let's take a look at the different scenarios. So I think everybody should be aware of Autopilot. So I'm typing in my email address. I'm here using my second factor on my mobile device. So just need to approve the login. So I don't need any password to authenticate, just my second factor with my Microsoft Authenticator app, and that's it. We have the possibility to assign the device already to a user. And then the user only needs to type in his password and not even has to type in the email address, which is kind of good experience for the end user. And then, of course, we got our status enrollment page, which we can use. And in the meantime, the device gets enrolled, profiles getting installed, and some applications are already getting installed during the process. So I'm skipping this a little bit because it's not really interesting. I think everybody should be aware of this process. It's now really common with Windows 10. And yeah, what we're seeing here is that the device, the profile is already there. So my background is already set and software getting installed now. So this means the end user experience is quite good because it's just typing in email address or password and then the device gets automatically enrolled, installed, and whatever. The problem with Autopilot is that it's actually taking some time to download all the applications. Autopilot with offline domain join, or how we call it is Autopilot Hybrid Join. But again, the hybrid join, the additional or optional Azure Active Directory registration is not really needed. That's why I'm calling it Autopilot with offline domain join. And we have the same functionality as with Autopilot. The only difference is that the device gets not joined to Azure Active Directory, but to the on-premise directory. And in this case, we need to make sure that the VPN client gets installed directly during this process. So in my case, I created a separate OG and assigned only the VPN client and only the VPN profile to it to make sure that the profile is installed before the device reboots and also the VPN client is installed. So same process here, just typing in email address. Again, I'm using second factor authentication. And the difference here is that, as you can see, I'm not using the status enrollment page because in the process, Microsoft is not able to, or we are able to show the device status enrollment page, but not the end user status enrollment page. So the account setup will not be shown. So I'm skipping this again, and you will see that this screen will appear. So after the device reboots and all the stuff getting configured, we're seeing here that the device is now joined to my on-premise domain. And after I authenticated the first user, the device registration in the local Active Directory is finished. So seeing the first login stuff, but also here the device registration is now completed, which means the device is assigned to the logged in user. And as you can see here, the device is on-premise, domain joined. And now the process of the normal installation will start. So the normal applications like Office, Chrome, and so on will get started. And then we got Dropship Offline. Dropship Offline is the functionality that you pre-provision your device, which means you're installing applications via PPKG. So you can install all the core applications like Office, Chrome, and 7-zip, and whatever you need. So all the default software that is needed on every device, you can install via PPKG, which gets sent to the factory. So VMware supports right now HP, Lenovo, and of course Dell for factory provisioning. But you can use this process also in your second touch facility or in your normal IT department. So we are able to join the device to Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and also to Workgroup. PPKG can pre-stage the applications the unattended XML is used for skipping the OB phase and so on. The thing here is when we're talking about Active Directory join, then we need to make sure that the device is connected to the local network with direct connection to the domain controller when we are starting up the device the first time. Otherwise, the domain join will fail. And in this case, VPN solutions are not supported. And I'm showing this here in the Azure Active Directory scenario because it's the most easiest one. So this is actually the end user experience compared to the Autopilot experience, right? So the device gets sent directly to the end user, and the end user don't see any difference. So the device starts up. And actually, I'm using also Autopilot here. So it's a combination of Dropship provisioning offline and Autopilot, which makes the end user experience, I would say, the best end user experience, because you can combine both benefits. So the software is pre-installed, and for the end user, it's only typing in email address and password, and that's it. And everything else gets installed or is already installed or getting installed afterwards. So same here, we're seeing the welcome screen. We need to type in the Windows Hello for Business pin if we have configured it. And as we can see here, I have installed Adobe Reader, Firefox, Chrome, and also the Home Office 365 suite. So the user has now a device which he can directly use without waiting for the installations of the applications. Then we got Dropship provisioning online, which is a little bit more complicated, just supporting right now Active Directory and Workgroup. Core applications are installed via an online installation. So this is the difference between offline and online. Offline, you always need to package all applications to a PPKG. Online will install the applications directly via internet and the latest available versions. So there's no real PPKG needed. I was skipping through this because this is not that interesting, because it's nearly the same as the offline mode. So we're seeing here, this is actually the part of the factory. So the device is in audit mode, and afterwards, the device is on-premise domain joined, as you can see here, and the device is enrolled to the end user, and also the whole tunnel and so on is already installed. So every application that is directly assigned to the device gets installed. So for a better overview, I created a Windows 10 modern onboarding options matrix. So where we can see the difference between the onboarding options. So when we start with the classic one, so the OB enrollment, where we don't have any automation, so the end user would need to join the device to Azure Active Directory, and maybe when we have Azure Active Directory Premium, then we had a direct enrollment to Workspace ONE. If we don't have, then the end user would need to go to getws1.com and download the Intelligent Hub, install and enroll it manually, completely. So I would say this is maybe for bring your own devices an option, but not in a company where you really need a highly automated process. Basically, there is an Active Directory support, but only in offline mode and only if the device is already enrolled. Because when you're doing OB enrollment and you don't want to join the device to Azure Active Directory, you're joining the device actually to a work group. And from then, the user would need to join the device either to the domain or enroll it and then get the offline domain join configuration pushed down to the device. Then we got Autopilot. It's completely automated for the end user because we have the requirement that we have Azure Active Directory Premium. And with Active Directory Premium, we have the mapping between the MDM provider and the device possible, or the user. So after the user types in username password and is authenticated against Azure Active Directory or any third-party IDP, then the device gets automatically enrolled to Workspace ONE. And if the enrollment fails, also the domain join or the Azure Active Directory domain join fails. So make sure that you tested this before rolling out this stuff. With the new feature Autopilot Hybrid Join, we have the option to use offline domain join to join the device to the domain as we saw in the video before. Then we got Dropship Offline, which is an automated process for the end user because the applications are pre-staged. The device is enrolled as soon as the user logs in. We can combine Dropship Offline with everything else. Means we can use OV enrollment, we can use autopilot or manually enrollment. Whatever we want, we can use. And also Azure Active Directory and AD support is completely supported. Make sure when you use online mode for Active Directory, then you need direct access to your domain controller. If you use offline mode, then you can ship the device directly to the end user, provide a VPN solution, and then you're fine. And you can have a pre-staged device in combination with autopilot and still joining the device to the on-premise directory. But you can use this process also without autopilot, of course. Manual enrollment is something for bring your own devices, which means you need administrative rights on the device to enroll the device. And afterwards, you can join the device via offline or online mode to the on-premise directory. And you have an Azure Active Directory support if the user joins the device to Azure Active Directory before you enroll the device. Staging is, I think, most common mode for brownfield devices where you have a PCLM solution and then you push down the intelligent hub to enroll the device. And also there you can use AD support or AAD support if done before enrollment. And Dropship Offline is nearly the same as offline, but the difference is that we're currently not supporting Azure Active Directory. We are working on it, but right now we're only supporting offline domain join. Last but not least, I want to show you the post-enrollment or post-onboarding enrollment screen, which shows the installation status to the device. And I'm showing this here with Autopilot. So assign the device to the user, logging in via multi-factor. And as we can see here, the device or the Intelligent Hub gets directly loaded after we entered the PIN. And it's directly in full screen, and it will show us the installation process of the applications. So this is booting up right now. And you can see that it's already providing the branding of your company. And you see there are already applications getting installed and also freestyle workflow application getting shown here. So then the last question would be, what is the best onboarding option for Windows 10? And actually, there are three options: Dropship, Autopilot, or classic factory provisioning. But as always, the answer is it depends, because you need to make sure that your customer or you know your requirements, if you need pre-staged applications or not. And depending on this, you need to choose if you need Azure Active Directory support or on-premise directory support. And then you can go through the metrics I provided you earlier and choose the right method. And with that, I would like to thank you, and hopefully this helped you to get the right onboarding option.